Laura Flood, thank you so much for being on the Calgary Fitness Podcast. I think we were connected by a mutual friend, and I think that we were talking off camera before we started, and I think that this is really pertinent. It's not a dog eat dog world out there. We should be building each other up in the fitness industry. So I think it's really awesome that you decided to come on here today and accepted the invitation to come on the Calgary Fitness Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. That's
awesome. Of course,
awesome.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about what you do, who you help, and where people can find you first and foremost.
Okay, awesome. So I'm the owner of the Hot Mama Calgary West franchise. So the people that I help are the brand new mamas, right? So mamas that have had their babes, they're 8 weeks postpartum, they can come to me for training. The pretty cool thing is that Hot Mom's a little bit different. They can actually bring their babies and their kids and their toddlers to the classes, so they don't have to pay for childcare. It makes it affordable for them. We really want to be able to give back to the community. A big piece of it is that we also have what's called a postpartum program. I'm not sure if I shared that at all. And so what it is again, it's just us giving back to the community. They get 4 free weeks of classes. There's no strings attached. We just want them to come out, get active, meet other new moms in the community. I'm a mom of 2 boys myself, and it's hard, it's tough being at home after babies, right? It's a transition. Most women are in careers, and then all of a sudden they're switched to being at home, right? It can be a lonely time. It can be hard. Postpartum depression is a real thing, right? So that's a big piece of Hot Mama, right? Us wanting to give back and also help them just to feel good in their skin, right? And
I think that you mentioned that it is a big limitation. Again, we were talking off camera before we start. My wife's pregnant, and she's taking the 18-month mat leave. So I can only imagine how lonely that's going to be. Dad's working. Dad's out of the office, whatever. We have another little one at home as well. It seems it's busy, it's hard, it's really, really tough to do, right? And filling your time and making sure that you are feeling good at the same time. I think that's really empowering for a lot of women.
It is, yes, and it's nice to meet. I remember when I was at home on mat leave and stuff, and I was kind of searching for groups that had common interests to me. I chat with my moms all the time and saying I would die to have Hot Mama back again, right? To have women that have similar goals, to meet other moms, to even I see as the trainer and stuff, the moms getting together, and the kids grow up, right? So the kids learn each other, meet each other, they have fun, the moms work out. It's a win-win, right? So it's pretty cool that way. So cool. It's really cool.
That's cool. So is there a flagship location, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're actually we're up in many different spots up here. So we're over in Killarney Hall, right? Cooper Hall, which is this little old kind of white building off 17th Ave. Lots of community centers. We're over in Ironside Fitness, which is just off in West Springs. And then now we just kind of expanded over to Crestmont, right? Wow. So it's all within the west, right? So all pretty close, but giving mamas on the west end of Calgary a chance to not have to drive too far, right? And that's why we expand, so they don't have to drive too far. They already have babes. Some of my mamas have twins. Some of my mamas actually have 4 babies, or 4 kids that they tow to all their classes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So I'm gonna guess you have a pretty good community of moms, right?
We do, and it's a lot. We do fun things with the mamas, we do yoga and wine nights, we do retreats, we do, it's more than just fitness, right? Absolutely it's fitness, and absolutely want them to get back in their skin, but it's more about building that community, right? So they have friends, and so they have people that they can talk to, right?
Wow.
It's
that's
cool.
amazing. So tell me a little bit about the workouts themselves, and I guess if somebody were to pull back, even if they don't go to the Hot Mama studio, someone who's postpartum, 8 weeks plus, maybe up to 16 weeks or whatever, right? What kind of exercises would you prescribe to somebody who's just had a baby?
Absolutely. And the thing is, we always say in Hot Mama, you have to be 8 weeks, right? We're not doing that to be mean. Always need to have doctor's approval, all that good stuff. You have to watch, right? So it takes 9 months in womb, right, to grow babes, right? So your ligaments have stretched, your tendons have stretched. Yes, we want mamas to come back. We watch what they do, right? So there's a lot of strengthening on their pelvic floor. We watch, how much impact they do, right? So maybe some of my mamas I've been training for a while are going to do a full-on squat jump that they're going to actually be going up and down and stuff. Let's see, brand new mama, she's going to be doing a body weight squat, right? So, and that's things they can do at home as well, right? So watching the impact, watching, I was going to say something like a lunge, right? Like rather than doing like a forward lunge, they'd be doing a step back lunge, and again, just watching the tendons, right? Watching those joints. I see a lot of mamas also with wrist issues. It's interesting, right? And so keep them off their wrists, right? So lighter weights, even post, at home, they can do, there's so many workouts and stuff online they can do. But yeah, watching the impact, that's the biggest thing, and starting off slow, right? They don't want to come back and be lifting like a 50-pound weight, right? We don't even have 50-pound weights, but like having like a 5 or 8, 5-pound weight, starting with that, starting with bands, all that good stuff. They can do that too. Yeah.
I think that's important to kind of highlight too, is we're sold in the fitness industry that 6 weeks you can get back in shape, but that's almost impossible, right? Because like you said, it takes 9 months to grow a baby. Why rush the process to? And I mean, a lot of women aren't getting back to where they were, and that's fine. You're a mom now. That's the most important thing, right? But there's got to be time associated with this too.
It is, and there's and that's one thing is I try and share with my mamas. I'm like, take the pressure off. Like a big thing is like I celebrate. Even if they're a few minutes late for class and stuff, I'm like, you made it, right? You made it today. Like you rocked it, right? You probably didn't have any sleep last night, right? You made a choice to still get here, right? Maybe baby had to have a diaper change right before. All these things, right? It's important, right? So yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of social media and stuff about like there's no no magic pill, right? There's no magic pill. Your body as a mom is it's gonna change, right? Yes, we want you to be strong, we want you to be fit, we want you to be healthy, but we also want you to be strong, fit, and healthy mentally, right? So yeah, I wish it's tough, like when you see even some of the celebrities and stuff and what they're back in their jeans like 2 weeks after, right? It's to me that's not real, right? So kind of dismissing those myths, getting having the real conversations with them and saying it's okay, you're here, you got this, mama, right?
Of course. And two, like when you have that babe for the first 2 weeks, month itself is like this new schedule, right? It's like adjusting to sleep patterns and everything like that. So like the food itself that you're consuming, right? You may not have time to make the best meal in the world either. So that's got to play into it as well, right? Like don't be so hard on yourself if you're not eating.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to feed the baby.
Yeah.
More importantly, right?
And let your stuff, and even simple things, right? Just say like, let the stuff go. Like if your house isn't spotless, does it matter, right? Like let that stuff go, kind of let some of those pressures go, right? And that's what, that's a big thing. Yes, I'm training them. Yes, I'm coaching them. All my instructors are too, but it's, to, really encourage and reward them that they made a choice, right? And they're there. So, yeah.
And that's why I think it's so cool that you do stuff like the wine nights to say that this isn't all just reps and squats and lunges and doing exercises and eating well. It's like, it's a holistic approach. Like you got to take care of you yourself because, like you said, postpartum depression is real.
It is, and and I know we just had Bell Talk Day, right? And it is a real thing, right? And it's impressive that now people are actually talking about it. But yeah, it is a real thing, right? And it's amazing to see even when we go out for a climbing night and stuff, right? That the mamas are out and getting a few hours to themselves, right? And that's giving themselves permission that it's okay to take those few hours to themselves, right? I remember going on the last retreat, and my one mom that has four kids, she just got in the car, and she was just like, Laura, this is fantastic. She's like, I haven't had a break like this for, even a drive out to Canmore for an hour, right? That she hadn't been able to do that, and just you could see her light up, right? So, and then from that, when we were actually out on the retreat, doing the hike, we were doing a hike out in Canmore. Anyways, she's like, all those squats, all those things you make us do. She's like, I thought I would have died on this hike. And she's like, I haven't hiked for years. And she's like, I didn't. Wow. Right? So it's coming back to fitness, right? Talking about the functional fitness, right? So no, it's not just about looking good in your size jeans, whatever, who cares what size you are, right? It's about functional fitness. It's about being able to run after your kids. It's about being active and healthy for them, right?
Yeah, that's super important. So let's take a step back here. I want to know your story.
Okay.
How did you get into this? Like, who is Laura?
Okay. It's an interesting story, and I know we were talking before. So this is a huge career switch for me, right? So I used to be in the world of IT. I used to be in oil and gas. When I had my own babes, which are actually now not young, they're 11 and 13, so one of them's actually taller than I am. Yeah, and weighs more. Anyways, so I knew I didn't want to go back to that industry, right? I wanted to stay home. And I wanted to be there for them, right? So I wanted something that was flexible. So fast forward from that, I actually went back to school and became a nutritionist. So I got my nutrition diploma. Then from there, from a training perspective, I was actually overtraining, right? So I was overtraining my body. I got injured, which actually brought me into the world of yoga, right? I started volunteering at a yoga studio, which eventually led me to become take this teacher training there. I had no clue what this was. I signed up. From there, fast forward, I started teaching there. I started actually managing the studio. So I managed the studio for a few years. Throughout that whole process and stuff, I also got my training certificates, yoga, like a whole bunch of different certificates. Started training at another gym, which is a local gym as well, which is called Mojo Fitness. I worked with those clients. Through there at the time, at Mojo Fitness, we were offering a class called Strong Mama, right? And Tara Lease, who previously owned Hot Mama, came in and she was looking for a space to rent, right? So we stopped running our Strong Mama classes, partnered with the Hot Mama world. I became a teacher, a coach with Hot Mama, taught there with her for a few years. And then she came to the realization that she couldn't run the business successfully because she had other time demands, her kids, like all the other stuff she was going on in her personal life. Came and actually offered me the opportunity to take over Hot Mama, right? So yeah, and so here we are, and I stepped in, big risk. Haven't regretted it, right? Nice. So it's pretty cool.
Good.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? Was the Hot Mama?
Hot Mama, it was a year and a half. I took it over. Yeah.
Cool. And we were talking to off camera about the locations too. So yes. So tell people who are listening, watching, where they can, I guess, get their fit on.
Yeah. So you can go to like the website if you want to go to Hot Mama Calgary West. But yeah, all the locations and stuff are all within the west end of Calgary. There is another franchise in the southeast part of Calgary, and her and I work well together, nice. Right? And so any of the mamas from the south part of Calgary, they should be going down to see Miss Heather. Cool. Yeah. Oh, awesome. In the summer, it's kind of cool. We're actually outside in the parks, right? So,
perfect.
Yeah. So the kids, we always say the kids play and mamas work out, right? So we're at local parks, like over in Patterson, Aspen. Down in Killarney, right? And we also usually do like yoga sessions, yoga in the park, nice. And the kids can come do that as well too.
Great. So the kids come.
We always set up for the safe playground. So there's a playground right there. We're set up right beside. The mamas can work out. The kids can interact. So the kids are being active too, which is pretty perfect. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about like if someone has an 8-week-old, like are they in the jumper, or is it like put them to the side, or how would that work?
I always say that's a very good question. Anything goes, right? So sometimes, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they are in a jumper. Sometimes they're in a bucket. Sometimes they're on the floor. Sometimes I call it like the baby sandbag or the baby weight, right? So you're doing like a squat press, and that's your weight, which is actually going to be a lot heavier than any of the weights we have. Sometimes mamas are doing a wall sit, and the baby's going to be on their laps, right? Us as instructors, you will usually catch us carrying and snuggling babies, doing piggybacks with kids, right? Like, what was I doing the other day? Playing Ring Around the Rosie with kids, right? So, yeah, it's a very interactive thing. Even the one little girl that was in one of my classes last week, they emulate their parents, right? So she's 2.5, maybe 3 years old. So Mama was doing a burpee, right? Which everybody knows what a burpee is. Yep. They love or hate them. Yeah. And so I actually caught her on camera, but she was emulating what Mama was doing. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So it's pretty, so the kids sometimes join in too. Not the babes, right? Like not the brand new babes, but the toddlers and the kids and stuff will start doing the workouts with moms. Yeah.
And going further than that too, it's like, then the kids get the idea that, if mommy's doing that, maybe this is something down the road that it starts to inspire them to a healthier lifestyle.
And I think that's huge. And even one of the little boys' Christmas wish list to Santa last year, which was so cute. He wanted a kettlebell, he wanted a chin-up bar, and what else did he like? A squat rack, right? Like it was pretty cute. And he's 5 years old.
Wow.
Right. So and so they now, and you know, that mom shares that she'll go downstairs and see them, and they have like their little workout set up, right? So somebody's the coach, the trainer, and then the little younger brother's doing.
I love that.
So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah,
that's so important,
cool.
right? So let's take it back to the exercises themselves, right? And maybe not even postpartum, but like prenatal. Talk about some of the things like you would recommend for someone within that first. So you find out you're pregnant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how far would you work out with someone, and then when would you kind of pull it back before the scheduled due date?
And that to me is very dependent upon the client, right? But absolutely, and I always say you have to talk to your doctor. You have to listen to your body, right? You're the one that knows the best, right? So, and some mamas, I've trained right to the end that we actually thought we were gonna deliver that baby in the studio. We didn't. But yeah, and so safe exercises, right? So watching the weights, right? So watching, like if you have been working out up to that point, fantastic, right? But watching your weights, right? You're going to start wanting to not lift quite as heavy, right? Watch the stuff that goes overhead. As much as I love running, it's fantastic. I feel that that's a lot, right? It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure on your pelvic floor. And yes, maybe it feels fine at the time, but maybe post-baby it's not going to feel good, right? Prenatal yoga, I think is a great thing to do, not just body, but mentally too. Things like in the gym and stuff, right? If you're in a gym, like elliptical, walking to me is fantastic, right? You can't go wrong with walking. But also to prepare your body for the birth, right? You need strong legs, right? So you want strong legs, you want, strong quads, like, so doing things like squats, sumo squats, not doing any core. You're not going to be doing crunches when you're pregnant. You shouldn't be doing crunches when you're pregnant. Those kind of things will actually go far with helping delivery too. Right? So
So I mean, that's the thing about the core too, is like direct core activation, definitely not, correct?
No.
But there's ways that you can still, like doing a TRX, using a TRX, right? So focusing on the upper body, yes, the core is getting a little bit there, but you're not giving that direct, like crunching movement. And
it's safe, right? And even and watching like plyometrics, right? Like like especially anything that can potentially, a fall, right? It's like anything. And yes, you're a mom and stuff, and you can't live in a bubble, right? Because you're pregnant. But if you can do things to prevent it, right? So rather than maybe doing a box jump, you're going to switch that to a step up, right? So same thing, you're using the same muscles, the same movement, but you're going to not hurt yourself. Right?
And that's okay.
And
that's okay to pull back. And it's not even a pull back, right? You got to think about the organs being like your lung capacity is so much less when you've got the baby in the tummy, right? So understanding that you don't have to go as hard to get the same response.
Exactly, and it's okay, and exactly, letting that giving yourself permission, right? So yes, absolutely, and I do encourage mamas if they're feeling good to keep working out, of course, right? But and I've had mamas that have trained the entire, in their entire pregnancy and stuff, and they still will actually come to a typical hot mama class, right? But as trainers, right, we work with them, right? So we'll work with them, we know they're pregnant, and say, okay, well, this is not saying you're not going to do everything that everybody else is doing, but this is what you're doing, right? Like, so you're doing a squat, you're not doing a squat jump, right? And they're like, okay, done, right? And so they still get to come, they still get the community, they still get to bring their other kids, they're still feeling healthy and fit and not feeling like, okay, I'm pregnant, so I can't do anything. And I think that's an older mindset that once you become pregnant, you're supposed to sit on the couch.
We touched a little bit on nutrition, but I'd love to hear your take on it too. Before having the baby and after, is there anything that people should be, women should be focusing on when it comes to nutrition?
Well, and a big thing, I think, having been pregnant before, right? You're just like, I can eat anything, no problem, right? And that's from a personal thing, and then that's personal, experience. And then after, you're like, wow,
Right?
maybe I shouldn't have eaten
Sure.
everything, right?
Sure.
Because you still have to get back to your body weight and stuff. So yeah, so not saying, yes, feed your body. I always believe in feeding your body healthy, wholesome, real foods, right? I don't believe there's any magic pill, right? Listening to your body, right? So like I don't even like the caloric intake and stuff for a pregnant mom and stuff, right? I think it's like an extra couple hundred calories a day, right? Most of us, as soon as you're pregnant, we just kind of go overboard, right? You're like, oh, I'm pregnant, I can eat anything.
Sure.
But then on the other side of it, right? So after you've had babes too, is if you're nursing anything like that, yes, exercise is fantastic, right? But if you come back to crazy and you want to like lose all that weight really fast, you have to watch your milk supply, right? So you still need to make sure you're having enough calories. You still need to make sure you're getting enough calcium, like all those things that you're actually feeding your own body, because a lot of the nutrients you're creating are going straight to that babes, right? So, and even yes, when we counsel the mamas and stuff on nutrition, just it's like the healthy, wholesome foods, right? Even if they're ready to come back and they want to, kind of start losing weight and stuff, it's like things like taking out sugar out of their diet, right? Making small switches, making sure they're drinking enough water, that they're not dehydrated, not pulling gluten, that kind of stuff out, but making the swaps, right? So making the swaps to maybe like an Ezekiel bread, or maybe like I always say like a squirrel bread, right? Like really grainy breads. And kind of killing those habits, right? It's more of it's a guidance thing, and usually we do the 12-week program with them, so that they have those habits and that it's a healthy lifestyle long term, not the quick fix.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my wife, she's pregnant right now. At the time of this recording, I'm not sure when we're going to put it out, but we may have had babe by the time people are hearing this. But you know what I mean. So our first baby, she had gestational diabetes.
Okay.
So she really had to watch what she was eating, right? And the sugars and everything like that. And diabetes runs in the family and everything like that. So we really had to be careful. But we cleared that hurdle on this second one. Not to say that she's binging or anything like that. She's still watching what she's eating, but at the same time, it's you really do have to be mindful of those sugars when you're when you've got the baby.
And it's like even like postnatal mamas and stuff, like sugar is an addiction, like for most of us, right? They're so right, and it's hard, right? And if you can cut, never, not saying never have sugar again, but like if you can cut that, right, it's amazing how good you will feel.
And let's be clear about that's processed sugar.
Processed
right?
Sugar.
So I'm hearing a lot of things right now, like if I eat fruit, I'm gonna get fat. No, that's not gonna happen, right? You gotta eat fruit. Please eat fruit. Exactly.
And please have carbs. So,
yeah. I mean, it's almost scary to watch nutrition sometimes, right? Because there's a lot of extremes right now, which, I mean, okay, that's fine. You want to be unique and everything like that. But for the generic 99% of the population, right? Like eat your proteins, your fats, your carbs, get your calories in for the day, especially depending on your activity level.
Exactly. And the other thing is to, it's that long-term healthy lifestyle, right? And especially for women and stuff, right? You don't want to be messing around with your hormones, right? And if you go on what I always call a crazy diet, right? And then maybe and then you wanting to get pregnant again, and you lost too much weight. I'm not saying that's going to prevent you from having kids, but it can be a potential factor, right?
Sure.
So in long term, you need to watch, right? Like, yes, you can see people lose weight on some of these crazy diets, but you also, on the other side, and I'm sure you've seen this too, they also gain that weight back and more, right? And that's what we're trying to prevent, right? It's that education of healthy, wholesome living, not just in the short term.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think moms are heroes. Like, let's be honest here. Like,
super capes on.
I agree, right? Like the stuff, and I had to have my eyes open to that. So a little bit of a backstory too is my mom's a single parent.
Okay.
Right. So I grew up not knowing my father, and now when I'm in my 30s, I completely understand what she had to go through, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful for that. She raised 3 kids without a significant other, and so she did. The moms out there are just absolute heroes. I wanted to go back to and talk a little bit about, we talked, the pregnancies themselves, the postpartum. Let's talk C-section. Okay. So do you still have that 8-week buffer, or how would you train somebody who had a C-section?
Yeah, we do, right? So we still, same thing, right? So we treat a C-section mama the same, right? So we don't treat them necessarily the same when they come into classes, right? So as coaches, as instructors and stuff, even when we're guiding through mamas through core and stuff, right? So we, and yes, I have a wide range of mamas, right? So some are brand new mamas, some are like mamas been training with me for 2 years, right? So it's like, okay, my brand new mamas, let's do something like a dead bug, right?
Yeah.
Let's do something like a bird dog, right? So this is your core, right? My mamas that have been training with me for a couple years, maybe they're ready to do a plank, right? Like it's to work with them and stuff, and like really targeting them to like tuck their pelvis under, make sure they have no space between their spine and the ground, to bend their knees, right? So please don't be doing it like a straight leg, double leg drop, right? So maybe for today they're doing like their knees are bent, right, and they're lying on their back and they're going to do a drop, right?
So everything's modifiable.
Everything's modifiable, right? And that's and some moms are scared to come in. I said you shouldn't be scared to come in, right? Like all the coaches, we're all moms, except for one who wants to be a mom really soon. One of my trainers actually has twins, right? So and she's gone through it, right? So we're like, we all get it, right? And we all, we talk about the strengthening of the pelvic floor a lot, right? Like movements to avoid something, like watch those jumping jacks, right? Let's not, and typically won't put jumping jacks in a hot mama class, or if we do, we'll do same things that we'll do options like modifications like a tap out, right? So they're tapping out, they're still doing movement, right? But that there's no impact on that pelvic floor. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the pelvic floor itself. I think that's very it's sensitive for a lot of women to talk about, right? Because it can be embarrassing, some of the things that you have to go through.
Yeah, and they don't want to come pee their pants. Like I know it is what it is, but it's hard.
Yeah. So how would you go about strengthening? What's the process? You did mention modifying some of the exercises, but tell me, like, how do you practice tucking your pelvis in and those kinds of things?
And we do also, I always recommend, like, we're not physiotherapists, right? So yes, we're coaches, we're trainers. We will recommend people to chiropractors, physiotherapists, the professionals, right? But things like, so you like tucking that pelvis under, and even like a lot of focus on breath, right? So if you're doing a squat per se, right, and your mama is holding her breath, right, and she goes to do a squat, that even though that's not impacting her, right, that there's no impact, as she does a squat, right, it's going to put extra pressure on that pelvic floor. So we do a lot of work with breath, right? A lot of work, like on the ground, and even if we do clinics and stuff like that with them, that they're tucking their pelvis under, or if they're in a squat position, to feel how that feels in a squat, right? So, or in that jumping jack, right? Say, okay, well, and breathe, and it's like a lot of it comes down to breath for pelvic floor, and yes, there's strengthening exercises. And yes, even not long ago we had a physiotherapist just come in and talk to the moms and train them, right? So
Great. So seek the external help if you need it, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's not like you can only do this. Like it's important that if there are concerns or no concerns, right? It's important as a holistic health plan to make sure that you're
absolutely
seeking everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm really curious too about sleep. Right? I mean, like we said, the first little bit is tough, especially when parents are starting to sleep train, those kinds of things. So how important does sleep play when you're trying to exercise, right? Because how long are your classes, for example?
45 minutes.
45 minutes, right? So maybe if you didn't have a good night's sleep, you come in for 15 minutes, right? Do you recommend some movement even if you had a crappy night's sleep?
I do, and I do, and and then after, and I will joke and say, "Mamas, maybe you need to go get a coffee now," or when your babe goes down, you need to get that sleep. But it's still good to There's a point, right? There's a point that you're gonna know if your body, you're exhausted, right? And you should probably just rest, right? But yes, sometimes it's also the endorphins, right? So the endorphins from exercise that will get you through it. Sometimes you coming in doing an exercise session, right, and even just being around other people will prevent you from going, having craving all that sugar, right, all those crashes and stuff, or that you're gonna go home and that night maybe you will sleep better, even if you're getting broken sleep, right? Like with a new baby, you're getting broken sleep, but maybe for those 3 hours, you're like, I slept, right? I always give huge kudos to the mamas that come into the classes and I know they haven't slept, right? And I think it's a myth that people right from the get-go, oh yeah, my baby's sleeping through the night. I'm like, I don't feel
In
your
what
baby
universe?
is. Yeah. So yeah, and it's okay, right? And it's also encouraging to see if it's interesting from a non-training perspective to see if that mom has had a bad night, right? Or let's say the mom is going back to work and they've dropped that kid off at daycare. The other mamas will come in, and I just saw this the other day, right, and just kind of bring that mama up, right? So it's more, it's they leave still feeling good, right? So they leave like they've had a good workout. Usually they're leaving sweaty and all that kind of stuff, and we want them to feel like that. But they also feel like, okay, I did this, right? I got through this day. Yeah. And sometimes maybe that's the only, not the only thing they're going nonstop, but that one thing they've done, right? They're like, this is what I've done for myself, right? And like reward that, you guys. Yeah.
And like, okay, so pull yourself away from the hot mama for a minute and say the mom didn't get some sleep, like, and they were to go to another group training class, right? Like, do you think that they should still do the full 60 minutes? Like, especially like if you think about like HIIT training or like, I guess, what would you do? Maybe just pull up a YouTube video at home?
Yeah, or, even max, even not max, but 30 minutes, right? You know what I mean? Like 30, and even if you look at the breakdown of a hot mama class, right? So by the time you warm up, right, it's really, you're getting 30 minutes of workout, right? Like, and same thing, go on YouTube. There's tons of, like, there's so many amazing videos out there. So many amazing coaches and trainers out there. Absolutely. Go for a walk with a friend, right? If baby's napping, I used to go downstairs and walk on my treadmill, right? As soon as baby would go down, I'd go walk on the treadmill for half an hour, throw on a show. And that was what I did at the time, right? Because I'm like, hey, this is what I can do. It's easy. I don't have to leave my house, right? And sometimes it's also taking that pressure off that I can't leave the house today when we had that minus 40 cold snap, right? No, I'm not leaving the house. And you can do body weight. You can do circuits at home. You can do things like mountain climbers and squats, and you don't need weights. You don't need equipment to do a good workout, right? There's so many weights, like non-band workouts you can do.
So if somebody were to do that, I guess go through some of the exercises off the top of your head that to stay away from. Like, what are the ones that they, postpartum women should not be doing?
I always say I always watch plyometrics, right? So plyometrics, as I said, running. Absolutely want you to walk on an incline, even on a treadmill. Give her. Watch that. Lunges, right? So watch lunges, step forward lunges. That's going to put too much pressure on your knees. Watch your wrists. Like, yes, you can come on in a plank position, but that's going to be a lot of pressure. Doing things like a full body extension instead of a full burpee, right? So it's not necessarily, it's maybe that's just me, but it's not necessarily that you can't do something, but it's like instead of option A, you're going to do option B, right? So watching, same thing, watching how much, weights you're lifting and stuff, right? Start off slow, right? So start off slow, grab the 3 pounds, grab the 5 pounds, right? Work up to, eventually you're going to be back at whatever you were, but start slowly. Right?
Is there a time frame? I mean, every client, every woman is going to be different, but is there a time frame from like 8 weeks postpartum to, is it 6 months later they're going to start to experience heavier weights when they're lifting?
Yeah, it's usually around, from like when I watch new mamas and stuff, like you will see, probably 6 months is kind of when they will start picking it up. Usually takes a year, right? Like, I'm not saying your body's going to be back to normal, but from when a new mama walks in to when she's basically ready to go back to work, that's kind of the typically, and that's not to scare anybody, that's just to set realistic
It's realistic.
Yeah.
I think that's super important too, is like, when you see the magazine covers at the checkout stand, it's like, lose that baby weight, and it's like, don't read that stuff, because number one, it's not the best information in the world, and number two, it's not realistic.
It's not. And the other thing is, mom, and they want the flat abs, and I'm like, ladies, and from a training perspective, that's actually going to be the last area, right? Like that's just how the female body works, right? And no, we don't want you to overtrain your core, right? So even when we're designing workouts and stuff, yes, we'll do stuff that we get them into the progression of planks, right? We get them into the progression of like modified side planks, all that kind of stuff. But if you're doing too much crunches and you have ab separation, you're just gonna create a tent for life, right? You're not actually rebuilding, repairing that core and then it's going to cause other issues.
Oh, I think and then that's a ton of value for people right there too. Is
it's hard.
It's a process, and it's your body is a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
And so training for longevity, like let's talk about that too, right? So some of the moms may not have an idea of what their family planning may be like, right? Maybe they just had one child, they don't know if they're gonna have a second, third, those kinds of things. I guess training in between children. I guess how would you planned or unplanned, like how would you continue training?
And that's hard, and it is hard, and when my mamas go back to work and stuff, I'm like, ladies, you need a plan, right? So you need a plan. You need to schedule this time for yourself, right? It's hard, right? You're already, if you're taking your babies to daycare, or even if you have a nanny, or grandma's taking care of them, it's okay to still put yourself as a priority, right? And yes, doing, to me, less is more, right? So if you can get 3 good workouts in, like maybe you can get more, fantastic. But if you can get 3 strong, hard workouts in, right? Maybe max 45 minutes, you're good. You don't need to spend hours in the gym, right? So take that pressure off. Can you put it in the day? How is it going to happen? What's the most realistic thing? Can you get up half an hour earlier? That sucks. It's not easy. Go down on your treadmill, go in your living room, put a video on.
You don't even need to get out of your pajamas.
You don't need, just get it done, right? And set yourself up for success, right? Put your workout clothes out the night before, right? And have everything done, so there's no guessing game. You just go, right? If that's your plan, right? Or if you're going at lunch, right? Schedule that time. You're gonna get invited for lunches. You're gonna get, right? There's gonna be obstacles in your way when you go back to work. Babe's gonna get sick, right? But to set that up, that you can do those things, right? And say, okay, I got 3 workouts in there. Fantastic, right? You get more, that's a bonus, right? But to me, less is more. You don't have to work out 3 hours in a gym. There's no way.
And so myself as a husband, a father, I guess, how can the husbands help? Talk to the men out there, like how can we help the moms postpartum?
And I think it's just to be there, right? To be there and say, if your significant other, your partner wants to go and say, I'm taking 30 minutes for me. Say yes, you should, right? I've had some, husbands say, they're loving your class. She's loving your classes. Can I buy your gift card? Right? Like even something. That's not a business thing. That's just like amazing thing, because she's gonna feel guilty about spending money on herself, right? So it takes that out. Doing things together as a family, right? So, and even like we do offer a family class, right? So then the moms and the dads can come together, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is kind of
awesome.
fun. But like as husbands or spouses or partners, like saying it's okay, right? It's okay, or I got this. Yeah, you go, right? It's you go for an hour. Like if you go to class, you're only gone for an hour. Like I can handle baby. Yes, he or she might be crying. I got it, right? And that's, as a mom, you're just like, okay, I do this, and I have that hour for my own mental health, right? And I cannot stress for that 1 hour.
Yeah. So, and I think physical health is like one thing, but mental health.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
Huge. And you mentioned the Bell Let's Talk Day, and I think that's really opened my eyes too. Is like seeing us go through our first child and now heading into our second, right? Like, I need to be there for my wife as much as she's there for our family, right? Like mom's the hardest job in the world.
It is, and it's not just because I'm a mom, but it is, right? And it's like, and they need that support, right? And to realize that it's okay, right? And it's okay to have some moments, right? Have moments, and and it's not going to be like the Cosby Show, right? Like it's not going to be like TV, right? Like you are going to have ups and downs, and and it's hard when, especially if you've been at work, and then all of a sudden now this is your new reality, right? Nobody really prepares mamas for that world, right? So and it can be, it's amazing, it's the most beautiful thing in the world, but that it's also not the easiest thing, right? And it's okay. So
cool.
That's
Laura, this has been amazing. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we
I was just say, I said, mom, like all the mamas, you got this, right? So, and it doesn't matter if you're a mom of brand new baby, you're a mom of you're a 16-year-old, right? You still got this, right? And it's important to always take time for you, right? Cool. That's my biggest thing. Yeah.
Laura, if people want more information, where can they find you? Where can they find Hot Mama? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so if you go, we can go to, it's like Hot Mama Calgary West, which is our website. You can find out all our classes. That's probably the best way to find me. We also are on Instagram, same thing, Hot Mama Calgary West. Yeah, we're all over social media. So.
Cool. Yeah, easy
Yeah.
easy to find you.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Laura, thank you so much.
Yeah,
This has
thank
been
you.
awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.